get started now. I'm going to click on record and welcome you all to the active teaching lab. You know, it occurred to me last week after the lab, last week was our 250th active teaching lab. And we now have over 4,500 people that have come, or participants that have come. Some of those 4,500 have come multiple times. So it's not individual people, but it's all told, participants, not unique participants necessarily. Anyway, that's kind of exciting for us because when this first started in 2015, I was thinking maybe it would last a semester, maybe it would last a year, but it has actually now lasted 5 years. It's kind of amazing that you all keep coming. Thank you. And I want to thank you also for speaking up and participating and being part of the labs, because if it were just me talking at you this entire time about what I wanted to talk about, nobody would come. So we really rely on you to share your opinion, share your experiences, and tell us what's happening in your world, because we want to be as responsive and react accordingly, to what the needs of instructors and educators are. And we think that the Active Teaching Lab does that. As part of that, you'll see the activity sheet that Sid will be continually sharing in the chat windows. And I'm going to put this up in the main screen right now. All right. So there's the activity sheet, and the nice thing about this activity sheet is that it is totally editable by you all. So you can go in there and you can just wreck it all if you really feel need to. Please don't do that. And but what I would like you to do is, if you have challenges and questions that you would like us to make sure that we answer because you have that burning question, please add it to this table on the right-hand side. And if you've been around the block with breakout groups and you've got some ideas and some tips, suggestions, and resources, well, that's what that right-hand side is for. Often we find out that there are questions on the left that I don't know the answer to, but luckily I'm in the room with 64 or 3 other brilliant people, and one or more of you will have an answer that I don't have. Let me contextualize what we're talking about today. Breakout groups. So here we are in a web conferencing tool, and almost all of the web conferencing tools that we have allow us to have breakout groups. But it can be kind of scary, right? Set those up and let the students go out and do what they're going to do. What are they going to do? It's not like saying, go to a different table and talk about something, because in that classroom, it's very easy to scan around the classroom and see what they're doing. Groups, you can't see them all at the same time necessarily, and you can't listen to them all at the same time necessarily yet, right? Maybe that'll come in the next iteration of Collaborate Ultra. Maybe it won't. That's no reason to not do them. And I want to point you to the top of the document here that I'm highlighting. Why Breakout? If you think about the physical classroom, breaking up into groups, that was like you did that once in a class because it took so much time, right? You've got to grab their coffee cup, and they've got to grab their backpack sometimes, and their coats, and close up their laptop and close up their stuff, and then get up and figure out what table do I need to go to, and it can take 5-10 minutes to get things going with that. And then when you want them to stop, that's another few minutes for them to get back to where they were before. So it can be really difficult in that physical space. With a virtual breakout room, it's all done by buttons. They stay seated where they are. really that much about things. A more advanced trick is let them have choices, and we'll talk about that down below in the activity sheet. I've got beginning tips for breakout groups, and so you can use those until you get comfortable, and then more advanced tips later on as you get more comfortable, and as the students get more comfortable. That's another important thing. It doesn't matter how comfortable you are. The first time you do anything with your students, they have to figure out what is it that our instructor wants us to do. How do I do that? All of those things. In many ways, fewer physical barriers, right? Virtually, so that's kind of neat. Being able to share the tasks, because they have their computers with them, you can put a link to a very clearly spelled out instruction sheet. You can give them worksheets. You can give them specific examples. They can ping you in the chat and say, hey, we have some questions here in group 3. That's easy to do as well. You can create the custom groups, and it doesn't matter, again, how many tables there are in a room. You're not limited because you're in a room with 100 students and 20 tables, so you've got to have groups of whatever that math is. You can say I want 100 or 50 groups of 2, and breakout groups can accommodate that. Again, because they brought their computer with them, or some sort of tablet or something, they can all work on a problem using the internet, using their digital resources that you've shared in readings and such. It's all there for them to access. It's not a matter of, oh, we're in group 5 and nobody in our group brought their computer today, so we can't do this. Or it's up to that one person who does bring their computer, and so it's this weird, all right, you're automatically the person who does all of the work because you brought the computer. You can give them more options. And this is a big one in universal design for learning. A lot of people don't like to just talk. Some of them find typing a little bit better because they can see what they're through what they're saying before they hit return or enter and share that out. We've got audio. You want to raise your hand, I'll call on you and you can unmute your mic. We've got video, so you can gesticulate wildly as you make your points. Chat windows, so you can do that with text only. And we've got a collaborative document here with the activity sheet. And am I breaking up again? Thank you, Tanya. I don't know what's happening with this. Let me check my microphone. I'm going to switch over to a different microphone, okay? And that'll take just a moment. Apologies. All right. Headsets do have issues. I've got a mic that I will use right now, and we'll see how that works. If you just let me know, 1, 2, 3.
Hey, John, we can't hear you now.
All right. Your microphone option, my webcam mic. I apologize. Any better now? Yes, no? No, not better yet. I apologize. This is we just got faster internet and should all be happening. All right, it's better. You can hear me now because I'm using this. I'm afraid it's going to break up again. And if it does, let me know in the chat or raise your hand, and I will. I don't know. I'll try to do something again. But thank you for giving that feedback. I appreciate it. It's no good if you can't hear me, right? All right, and then the last thing to sort of frame what we're doing today. If you give them something to do, some sort of a digital worksheet or slide deck, you can keep that. Oftentimes in our breakout groups that we have in physical spaces, maybe you give them a resource or a piece of paper. It's usually something that only that group can access. With shared across all of the breakout groups, whether it's a slide deck that we're going to try out in a minute, or just a shared document that we're working now with the activity sheet, that's there for them to study off of. That's there for them to refer to afterwards. And it's kind of neat. I want to talk about the slides just a little bit. We're going to break out into some slides, and that link is up at the top. And what I'll do is I will take the 63-ish people and break you up into groups of 5. So, Sid, would you be able to connect to that and set up breakout groups?
I'll try. What did you say? A certain number of groups or number of people in the groups?
Yeah, if you can take the participants and break them up into groups of 5. And the reason I'm choosing 5 for everybody is because in Black Collaborate, what you can do is you can see 4 other people and yourself. So if you have 10 people in a group, you're not going to be able to see half of them, and it's kind of hard to talk to people that you can't see or hear. So it's a little bit easier to keep track of people in the thing. And
all right.
As usual, as soon as we talk about breakout groups, people are like, "Oh no, I can't do this right now. I've been talking too much, or I just wanted to pay attention." And you'll see that it's just the same with students. First couple of times that they do breakout groups, they don't want to do this, so it's something that you kind of have to force.
All right. Think I got it. Are we ready to go?
We're not ready to go. Let me give some instructions. The slides are linked up at the top, and I see that you are in there. And what I want to do is we're just going to take 12 minutes, and we're going to end at 1:30. And we're going to break up into groups, and you go to your slide number that's based on your group. So if you're in group 1, go to slide 1, right? In group 2, go to slide 2. The cool thing about this that I want to model and demo is that I can go in and I can monitor what you're doing on the slides without having to sort of break into your group, because we've all been in a situation with breakout groups. As soon as you start hovering over that table, everybody just stops and waits for you to say something, and you interrupt that. Here, you can kind of keep on going and not interrupt your flow. All right. So very good. And Jerome, thanks for saying it's important to use Chrome. Chrome works a little bit better for Blackboard Collaborate than some of these others. Yeah, go ahead, Sid.
All right. You'll be in a group of either 5 or 6. So I'm going to hit the button right now.
All
so
right.
John, you and I are in the
main room.
Yep.
Yep. You want to comment on slides with me?
Where's the? Did you post the link to the slides? I don't know where that.
Oh, it's at the top of the activity sheet.
Ah, okay. Breakout.
Let me
breakout groups. All right. Yep, I see it.
What I do is I'll come up with like a overall question just to demonstrate, and then I'll copy and paste it into.
And I see Blair just joined us. Blair, do you want to do a breakout group or hang out here with us?
I'll hang out.
Okay.
All right. So Blair, there's a link to the slides. Did you join before that? Can you see it in the chat? Or if not, on the activity sheet, it's at the very top. And then you can jump into the slide and see how things are going as well.
I got it. Thanks.
Very good. 7? Nope.
So what did you just say, John, about how you're approaching commenting on the slides?
I'll often think of like comments that just about all the, sort of prompt. So if you look at slides 1 through 4, you'll see that there is a comment. I'm highlighting the word elsewhere in the thing, and then adding a comment that I just copy and paste, and then it shows up. But it's the same comment. It's not, at this point, specific to any of the work that individual groups are doing. I noticed that in chat, one of the participants said, "How do you give them how do you do the comments?" And so I just wanted to demonstrate that
so you didn't,
for all the groups.
There's no comment on 4. They might have removed it, which
no,
people can do.
I'm still, yeah, somebody checked it already.
Okay.
And I'm only on number 5 right now. Wait a second. Oh wait, that seems to have. Yeah, some of them are dismissing it already. That's awesome.
Group 5 looks like it has only 1 person.
And is it you and me? No, it's Oxalatil.
It's not me. The people were leaving after they went into groups.
Oh.
So some of our numbers are more even than others.
Can we move to group 4?
Group 10 has 2 people.
All right, awesome.
Yeah, group 4.
The other 2 chain groups.
Did not set that up, but I should be able, you or I should be able to move around.
Okay.
So that's.
Oh, it's just one person is.
Oh, they're not in the Google. Oh, okay. They might not have gone to the sheet, but they might be actively chatting, and we wouldn't know it.
Very good.
Okay. Yeah, so the monitoring isn't a perfect process.
It's not.
But it's still a lot more efficient than just randomly hopping into groups.
Yeah. because this is looking at the activity sheet, let's give them just 130, I think about 135.
Okay. Yeah, we assume there are discussions, even if we don't see things in the activity sheet yet.
Yeah.
In the lab activity sheet, I posted the link to the KB doc that describes this kind of group process.
Great. I did this. It should be in there. I broke it down into the think, pair, share, and some of the other ones, and then using slides.
One of the questions in the sheet was about how do you keep an eye on people.
Great.
And this is not perfect, but it's a technique.
Hey, John.
Yeah.
So I had to log out and log back in for technical issues. Is there any way we could jump back in group 6?
Oh, yes. Thank you for speaking up. We'll move you to group 6. There you go. And update. All right, there's some good ideas coming into these.
Is this really just a big crowdsourcing plot?
Every active teaching lab is a big crowdsourcing plot.
I thought so.
A lot of these are things that are on the activity sheet.
Well, it's kind of a good validation then.
Yeah.
They got about a minute left. Want to give them a warning?
Sure. Oh. Do. If we as moderators join a group and the recording ends, but as is, because we haven't, we are still being recorded. That's interesting. See, I always learn stuff here. All right, 136. It's time to bring them back. So, I'm going to do a countdown in chat. Can you end? 9, 8, 7. Said yes. 4.
Yeah, I guess I just hit cancel and that should do it.
One. It's Cliff.
Similar. Hi, I hear a dog.
Back, everybody.
That wasn't a dog. That was
On that
No,
countdown,
are you joking?
that was some really high-tech countdown you had there, John. You ought to
Was
show us how
that
you
was
did
me.
that.
That was me going 10, 9, 8.
So what kind of cool technology did you use for that?
I used my brain and let's see, my right hand numlock. I've just got a little keyboard, so no numlock keyboard. All right. Welcome back, everybody. You all had productive and interesting conversations. You had a chance to sort of experience a structured Google slide activity. And this is very easy. Yeah, Jerome, that timer function of Blackboard Collaborate, as I understand it, was taken out in spring. And I don't know why it was taken out in spring, but to my knowledge, it has not come back. And I'm hoping that
That's
it
too bad.
will.
It's on their support page. They talk about it.
Yep, and it used to be there. And then for some reason it's not. Kathleen, is there a way to ask for help from a break? Yes. One option that we can talk about, well, one option is in your Blackboard Collaborator chat, and you could do the same thing with the Zoom channel. As Yulia has put into text here, you can just click on that Everyone chat window, which would be right above your special group window, and that'll jump into the Everyone chat. And then, in theory, if I'm paying attention, I would be able to monitor that. As it was, I didn't catch all the things right away that were showing up in chat because I was in the notes, leaving little comments and notes on the different ideas that you had. And I just did that in a just with a comment feature in Google Docs or Google Slides. And you could do the same thing if this were a document, a Google Doc. It shows up. The people in the group can click on it and make it go away. They can respond, and we can have a little conversation in sort of the comment feature. There's different ways of having that. It was kind of fun for me to then just kind of go around and see what's happening. But this is not a real necessarily a good solution all the time because as what was it, group 4 or 5, there's only one person on the Google slide. The rest of you were in talking with each other in Blackboard Collaborate. And I was like, oh, I only see one person. Did everyone else ditch them, that group? So I jumped in and was like, do you want to move to another group? And then how they responded, no, we're all here. We're just not a lot of slides. And that's fine too. Yeah, so Tanya, this is the thing that I really love. If I had gone into your individual breakout groups, you would have seen me show up, John just joined your group. And if you're a student, what happens at a breakout group when the instructor joins the group? It's like everybody freezes. Whatever flow that they were having gets interrupted because there must be something important, or what if we're not saying the right thing, or this person, is the instructor going to give us a question that we need to answer? Everyone gets nervous. But this way, you can kind of parachute in from the outside and be like, just, I can't hear you necessarily, but I'm watching and monitoring what you're doing a little bit. It's also a little nudge or a reminder that, oh yeah, we have to produce something on this page, right? So we can't just talk. We should create something on that page because John wants us to, or the instructor wants us to. All right. Raise your hand and unmute your mic if you have thoughts about this activity or some ideas that you came up with in your group that you'd like to share. I saw a lot of really good ideas, and it looked like you were being thoughtful about how to work with them.
Hello, John. This is Javier.
Hello, Javier.
Yeah, so in my group, I was with Kelly and Tom, and they both had more teaching experience than I did. But I think what we most all learn is that you assign roles, as in who's the reporter, the writer, through the breakout rooms. And then a great comment was that when you assign this ahead of time, you get a lot of consistent participation when you then break into groups instead of just randomly wait for their participation. So I think that was the biggest takeaway out of that.
Yeah, roles are really fantastic, right? Because even if you don't know exactly what you're going to do or what you're supposed to do in this, if you're given a role to play, it's kind of easier to say, oh, I'm the role of the timekeeper, so therefore I must be doing timekeeping, right? Or I'm the role of the reporter, or I'm the role of the facilitator. It's my job to get things going. Or you can have like professional roles or epistemic lens roles where you say, I'm the role of the marketing department, or I'm the role of the accountant. So to talk how much this is going to cost and is it worth it? Even that much, even if you know what your job is, you can say, well, I don't know, but I'm going to get in character. And you can create your own sort of structure. But yeah, the more instructions, the better. In this one, I did for not very many instructions. I gave you the prompt of what ideas from the activity sheet or elsewhere might you use or recommend. Have you tried or heard about it, right? That's not like a real deep prompt. So even with that, there might be some confusion. One of the nice things about giving students that space is that it can force them to sort of be self-directed. And that's uncomfortable, right? Because we like to be told exactly what to do, what the expectations are. We don't often, especially as students, like to be self-directed, lest we self-direct our ways in the wrong way and our instructor, downgrades us because we didn't do what we imagined that they wanted us to do, right? And that's a big power thing. So depending on your class, you need to find that balance that's right for you. Is it a class that is very structured where they need very check-off or checkbox type instructions? Or is it a class where you're developing them or fostering their self-directed learning, where you sort of expect the expectation of the course is you've got to figure out some of these things yourself. And that's going to change whether you're in a first year, first semester experience, or if you're farther along in your undergraduate career, right? All right. I saw some information, some things go by in the chat, and I love it. Go back and catch up. Amanda asked if anyone used breakout groups where students self-direct into breakout groups. On the activity sheet, I've broken things down into easy to do and harder to do. So the first couple of times that you're working in breakout groups, I would say, and especially for the students, if they're not familiar with that, there's some question about how do I do this and what happens if I do this, that, or the other thing. As an instructor, you will probably make mistakes. As an educationalist, a person who delves with technology all the time, I always make mistakes. It's never easy, and I'm always pressing buttons and such. So that's part of it. The more familiar you get, and the more familiar I get, the fewer mistakes we make. But it always happens. So having the students jump into their individual groups, we've done that in an active teaching lab. It worked pretty well, but it's not a first-time thing to do, in my opinion. Some of you have other thoughts on that, I'm sure, and I encourage you again, raise your hand and turn on your mic and jump in. All right, and there's information on polls. Do you all remember We Vote? Remember the Wii, that thing with no arms that we'd go play actively in our video game dens or whatever? There's an option called We Vote, where it's like, do you like pizza or do you like hoagies? And people can say, oh, I want to go join the pizza room or the hoagie room. And then it would show you, how many percentage of the pie graph was hoagies versus pizza. You can do the same sort of thing with these Google slides. Say, have a pizza slide, have a hoagie slide, and students can go jump into those groups and have those conversations about that. Now, obviously, when you're eating pizza, but you'd use a strategy A for solving a problem, or a strategy B for solving a problem, and students can learn different things. The transition time for students moving around in groups is still faster than physical, even if they've never figured it out before, but it's oftentimes hard for them to figure it out, just as it is actually for me as well. Scrolling down. All right. And the chat is, again, this is, so there was a thing about cognitive load in one of your groups. And if you haven't noticed yet, this active teaching lab is very active when it comes to cognitive load. I've got an activity sheet, a collaborative Google document. We've got the voice and audio. We've got the video and audio. We've got now this Google slide. We've got the chat window. There's comments in the slides as well as, and comments chat in those other windows as well. This can be overwhelming to students and participants who try to do everything at the same time. Oftentimes what will happen is people will say, you know, I really dive with the slides, so I'm going to hang out in the slides and just listen in on the other things. Others can jump into the chat. It's hard to do all of them, but you empower the students to make the choices rather than making the choices for them. And I think that this is a really important point, so I'm going to say it again. Let your students have the choices. Do not take away the choices from your students. Because if you take away choice, it feels like you're controlling everything. If you offer choices, it feels like it's their class, like they control the space. All right. One of the things in the activity sheet that I'm going to highlight here, and it's down at the, where is it? There it is, number 5 in the general tips on remote instruction. Specifically request to the folks in your remote attendees, your participants, your students, because there's not a lot of nonverbal information going on here, ask them to talk more than they would in a class. So I'm going to do that with you all right now and say, help me out. My throat's starting to hurt a little bit. I've got my water right next to me, but give me a break. And somebody raise your hand, tell me what you thought or what happened in you, some aha moment or some question that you have. And as soon as we do that, after a quick break, we don't have any questions or challenges yet, so let's keep it focused on the activity, the slides. Thank you, Steve. Go ahead.
So I had an interesting experience yesterday with some of this stuff about the sort of multitasking here, because some of the students that were in my class, they had compared answers on an assignment, and I told them that they all should have the exact same answer. And when they came back to the main room, they started overwhelming me with questions in the chat, and I could not keep up. And so I wonder if there's, and even in spite of me telling them to stop, they just kept going and going. So I was never quite able to catch up, and I don't know if there's a tip there somewhere that, you know, because I agree that as an instructor, it's very hard to manage all of these at the same time, in addition to the fact that maybe you're trying to split them into breakout groups and things like that. So I wonder if there's something that we could do to help the students and ourselves both at the same time with those kinds of issues.
Yeah, great. Scott, do you have an answer?
I do.
Unmute yourself. All right.
Something that I've tried in my class, and it's been pretty successful, is every session we assign one student to be the chat monitor.
Wonderful.
And their job is to bring to the attention of the class basically questions and comments in chat. And now if you've got a big class, the chat monitor is going to get overwhelmed, but it's better than the instructor trying to do it yourself because you're focused on other things. So I've had some success with that.
Yeah, I think, and it's a thing, it's a role that you can actually say, all right, this week so-and-so is going to do it, and next week somebody else is going to do it, or have a group of folks, because what it does is it develops the students as resources for each other too, right? And it changes our dynamic because you don't have to be the expert, and it is overwhelming for you, right? It's overwhelming for us to try to get that. So let's offload that and say, hey peers, hey students, learn from your peers, take care of each other there. And if you can start getting that in as part of the ongoing culture of your class, where students often answer questions for each other, they're going to stop bugging you so much about those questions. Good. Other thoughts on that? Alphabetical, sure. You just take how many students you have and divide it by the number of sessions and say, all right, if you're in, A through L or whatever, not L, A and B this week and C and D are next week, or whatever that works out to be. All right. Other thoughts and ideas from your breakout groups? What were your experiences? Help me out, folks. Yes, thank you.
They were a nice way to get to talk face to face since we can't really turn our cameras on in a big class without overwhelming the broadband.
It can be. Even the voice is nice though, right? Just being able to hear each other.
Nice.
Yeah.
It was also possible to have a more organic discussion because we're in smaller groups, and we could all have our mics on, so we could just chime in when we had a thought.
Yep.
So that was also nice and possible advantage.
Great. Megan?
At the risk of outing myself and my group members as not the best students in this session, we talked about the problem that arises when students suddenly find themselves in a breakout room without really having followed what they're supposed to be doing. Yep. And we talked about ways in which we can avoid that situation. And so one of the things that I kind of was forced to do, because I have a student who has an accommodation and requires written materials to be provided in advance of class. So that means, I have to make sure that I've provided all of my written materials on the course Canvas. But that also means students can access that ahead of time and know what the activity is for the day, and they also know where to find it if they find themselves in a breakout room having no idea what to do. Plus, I create a slide that I go through. And so it's just a lot of copying and pasting. So I have my slide. I have the course Canvas that says what the activity is. I have my slide, which says what the activity is. And then when they go into the breakout room, the first thing I do in chat is I post the instructions from the slide. And so there are 3 different places in which they're getting this material. And pretty much among those 3 places, I can be confident that at least someone's going to know what they're supposed to be doing.
Yeah, one of the fun tips that I ran across was the idea of using this gray space outside and putting your questions there, so you can have all of the information that you want them to give you here. They can zoom out and see, and that way they're not going to in the slide itself it won't show up, so that slide real estate is left for them to sort of create on their own, but the instructions will be in that box around the outside. I thought that was kind of a neat thing. And then another one was go back. You can actually use the speaker notes down below, right? and say, I want them to summarize their slide in the speaker notes. So whatever they do on the slide, whether it's, filling in a table, they could put like their number one tip or their takeaways in speaker notes down below. And that way, again, it's a way to use the tool in different ways. Tom, go ahead.
I was wondering how you added in that John says this will end at 1:35. Was that with the slide master or just copying and pasting into each slide?
It was just copy pasting into each slide. I did not use a slide master because I'm not that much of a master of Google Slides yet. It's very easy to just copy paste, and
Oh, yeah.
I was like, where do I put this? And I ended up putting it on the slide rather than as a comment. But yeah. All right, we have 3 more minutes left. Back to the activity sheet. Are there other ideas that you've seen or heard of that we have not listed here? I went through a deep internet search and collected some of the best things that I've seen through 20 different versions of teaching and learning centers, how to do breakout groups. And I broke them into some easy things and some medium things. Have any of you tried the Iron Chef slides? Kind of a good one. There's a template if you want them to do TikTok videos on slides. All right. Well, it's 1:58, and if you don't have any other questions or thoughts or ideas, I'm just going to let you, yes, something else that on chat. Very good ideas. And again, thank you all for jumping in and being part of your breakout groups and contributing in that way, sharing ideas, sharing feedback. And we will see you next week or the week after, whenever you can. Thank you for jumping in. Take care. I'll stick around for the next 10 minutes, the next 7 minutes, and then take a break. And if you're in my Leveraging Technology to Teach class, I'll see you at 2:10 in this place. Okay?
And remember to turn off the recording.
Yeah.